Rays of sunlight slipped through the curtains, landing softly on the wooden floor of Pam's apartment. Side, the city of Allura stretched beyond her window, bathed in golden hues as morning slowly stirred to life. Pam shifted beneath her covers, not quite awake, yet already hearing the faint call of duty. Work. Routine. And then, a sudden jolt on the bed. A warm, wiggling presence. She smiled sleepily. "Morning, Bob." The tail-wagging, tongue-flopping response was all she needed. The morning walk was a ritual Bob never missed. Pam got dressed, clipped on the leash, and stepped outside. Bob lunged forward as soon as the door opened, nearly yanking her off balance. "Easy," she muttered, steadying herself. Bob, her lovable, headstrong fluffball, was many things. Obedient wasn't one of them. But even on the worst days, he never failed to make her smile. They reached their usual spot, a wide green field tucked beside the local playground. Pam tossed a ball and Bob flew after it, ears flapping. Laughter bubbled up in her chest as she watched him zigzag across the grass. Here, in this little pocket of the world, everything felt okay. Eventually, it was time to go. But as they passed a nearby hotel, Bob suddenly stopped. Nose twitching, he inched toward the entrance. "Not there," Pam said, tugging the leash. Bob ignored her. "Bob." Her voice sharpened. He flinched and bolted. She chased him down the sidewalk, feet pounding, breath short. But even in frustration, her love for him held steady. Back home, she rushed through her routine and darted out the door. Pam arrived at work just in time, offering brief greetings before settling at her desk. And her best friend and coworker glanced her way, clearly brimming with gossip. Pam didn't look up. Her eyes were locked on her phone, and rolled her eyes. A beat later, "Oh my God," Pam gasped, and glanced over. "Now what?" Pam didn't answer, and leaned back. "Still fussing over that mutt? Thought he was the reason your last boyfriend left." Pam went quiet. Her face changed. Something inside her shut down. Flashback, 3 years ago she met Jaden. Charming. Confident. Attentive. He swept her off her feet like a page out of a fairy tale. They moved in together quickly. He wasn't ready for kids, so they adopted a dog instead. That dog was Bob. She never hesitated. That's how much she loved him. But time peeled away the sweetness. He mocked her for bonding with Bob, called the dog a nuisance. She ignored it until she couldn't. One night, it all came crashing down. He forced her to choose. And she chose Bob. Evening came. Pam returned home, tired and moody. And suggestion of hiring a trainer echoed in her head, but her bank account had other ideas. She stepped into her apartment and let out a scream. A neighbor peeked from next door, unimpressed. "Sorry," she muttered. Bob tilted his head. She sighed. "Come on." "Walk time." Sighed just as she locked the door, someone spoke behind her. She didn't catch it. Bob was already tugging her forward. Then the leash jerked. Her heel slipped. She pitched forward but never hit the ground. A strong arm caught her. Cigarettes. Vanilla. Warmth. A dark tattoo on his neck. She looked up. Their eyes met. She froze, still holding on to him. Pam stepped back, brushing her hair aside. Word. "I was just thanks, don't wear heels outside," he said. She blinked, then spotted his slippers. A soft snort escaped her. "Helpful," she murmured. She turned to leave. "Sit." Bob dropped to the ground. Pam stared. "How did you?" The man didn't answer. "I need someone to watch him. Just during the day," she said. "I'll pay." He barely looked interested. "I'm expensive." Pam grabbed his sleeve. "Please." Still clutching the leash, she suddenly noticed the closeness. Too close. Her heartbeat jumped. Something shifted. Not quite danger. Not quite safety. But definitely something. Pam stepped back, startled by how close she had gotten to him. Her breath hitched. Flustered, she turned away. Tyler looked at her for a moment, slightly confused, but didn't comment. "So, why exactly do you need help with your dog?" he asked. Pam, still trying to steady herself, unlocked her door and nudged it open. He stepped inside and immediately spotted the mess Bob had made. He raised a brow. "That'll be 20 an hour." Pam blinked. 20? That's more than I make at work. But when she looked at Bob, her expression softened. "It's fine. He needs this." "All right. Deal," she muttered with a sigh, just as Tyler mumbled something under his breath. He paused briefly, his face unreadable. Then he crouched, giving Bob a few calm strokes. "I'll need payment a day in advance," he added. "And a spare key." Pam nodded, trying not to seem too eager. "Sure. I'll get it now." As she stepped away, he spoke again. "Name's Tyler, by the way." Maybe he expected a reply, but Pam was already smiling to herself. No more running home mid-shift. No more guilt. For once, something was falling into place. Anne's going to have a field day with this. The next morning, Pam arrived early as usual, practically skipping into the hallway. "And you won't believe what happened," and quickly signaled her to stop. Pam looked ahead and froze. Their manager was already mid-lecture, his voice sharp, scolding and for a report issue. Pam's entrance only made it worse. He turned to her, irritated. "Please focus on your work." Pam tried to apologize, but he waved them both off. Quietly, they returned to their desks. Pam sank into her chair, guilt washing over her. "That was definitely on me." Leaning in and whispered, "If you want to make it up to me, go on a double date with me this weekend." Pam gave her a look and smiled. "He's cute. You won't even need to call him again." But Pam didn't say anything. Her silence was enough. "Oh, right," and said, her voice softening. Pam wasn't the casual type. She took love seriously, too seriously. Pam rubbed at her eyes. "Why do I always fall so fast?" And decided not to push. "All right. What were you about to tell me earlier?" Pam's face lit up. "Bob." "But wait, Lunch. I'll tell you everything then." Before they could say more, their manager's voice cut in again. "Focus, ladies." They flinched. Michael, the office flirt, was trying to distract the boss but failing, and groaned under her breath. "Ugh." Pam muttered, "Please stop talking." The rest of the morning crawled by. When lunch finally came, they left their desks in unison. Pam excitedly recounted how Bob trashed the house, how the neighbors showed up, and how, somehow, she ended up hiring him. And listened, slowly trying to piece things together. "Wait, so you just met him yesterday and already gave him a key to your place?" Pam nodded sheepishly and stared at her wide-eyed, then grabbed her collar. "Pam, he's scamming you." Pam blinked. "What?" "Check your pet cam. Now." They pulled it up. Bob was out cold on the sofa while Tyler moved around the room and pointed. "He drugged your dog. And he's probably robbing you." Pam's stomach dropped. "Go. Now. I'll cover for you." Pam didn't waste a second. On the way home, her thoughts swirled. Not again. Not another Jaden. What is wrong with me? She burst into her apartment, breath ragged. "Why did you take my money?" Tiller turned, surprised. "You're what?" Pam's eyes darted to the cash in his hand and on the table. He looked confused. "I work nights at a bar. This is my tip count." Pam hesitated. "Oh." She looked over at the couch. "Then why is Bob like that?" "He's asleep. We went hiking this morning." He gently picked Bob up, showing her the little rise and fall of his chest. Pam felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I messed this up." "And the footage?" "You were looking for tequila." He blinked. "Tequila?" Tyler stood, brushing off his pants. "Check again." "I wasn't looking for alcohol. I was looking for her." He reached down, scooping up a tiny puppy. "Meet tequila." Pam stared. "Wait, that's tequila?" "She's got a temper," he said with a shrug. "The name suits her." Pam opened her mouth, then closed it again. Somehow it really did make sense. He tapped the spot beside him. "Sit." She did. He started talking about shots, tequila, the energy, his tone light. But Pam wasn't fully listening. He was right beside her. Calm. Comfortable. Warm. And her heart, it started again. That stupid flutter she'd tried so hard to ignore. Pam was still deep in her own thoughts, wandering through imaginary scenarios when a sharp bark yanked her back. Tila lunged toward her out of nowhere, startling her. She let out a scream and instinctively recoiled. "Tequila, hey," she gasped, caught completely off guard. Tyler stepped in, gently restraining the dog. "She's not great with women getting too close," he said casually, like it was just how things were. Pam stared, trying to steady herself. That was unexpected. Once Tequila had calmed, Tyler looked at her with mild curiosity. "So, what was that about earlier? You looked ready to throw me out." Heat crept into her face. She shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting to the floor. "It's a long story." He didn't press, just waited. So, she told him. How she had mentioned him to Anne, how her doubts spiraled, how she convinced herself he might be a scammer. She left out the part in the car, her fear, her panic. That felt too personal. Too raw. She dropped her gaze, unsure what he'd think. He was quiet for a moment, then let out a slow breath. "You thought I was a con artist?" She cringed. The air felt heavy. "Tea?" she asked quickly, desperate to shift the moment into something lighter. "Sure. Mind if I step out to the balcony?" She nodded. "Go ahead." As she waited for the kettle, her mind wandered. Tyler wasn't what she had imagined. There was something calm about him. He didn't feel like someone hiding something. Bob liked him too. That said a lot. She returned with 2 mugs. "Want milk?" "Just sugar's fine," he said. As she turned to leave, he cleared his throat softly. She paused. "Need anything else?" He glanced at her. "I get it, by the way. You didn't know me." She nodded, unsure what to say. "Slippers, weird price, no proof of anything," she added, trying to smile. Not the most comforting combo. He gave a faint smile in return. Neither is letting a stranger into your house and disappearing on him. They both smirked, a little more at ease now. Tension faded, replaced with something quieter. Pam glanced down at her tea. "Why'd you even help me?" "You didn't owe me anything." He looked out over the balcony. "Sometimes you just know when someone means well." She hesitated. "You're that sure?" He nodded. "I've lived next door a while. I remember that night with Jaden." Her breath caught. "You do." Tyler's flashback. He'd been feeding Tequila like always when raised voices bled through the wall. Jaden's. "There he goes again," Tyler muttered. The argument dragged on, sharper with each minute. Eventually, Tyler walked out, headed to her door. As he raised a hand to knock, he froze. "It's either me or that thing," Jaden's voice spat. Back in the present, Pam's face went pale. Of all the nights he could have overheard. She didn't know what to say. Tyler's voice broke the silence. "We have one thing in common." She gave him a questioning look. "Dogs," he said simply. "They don't pretend. They don't leave." His voice had dropped, quieter, gentler. "That's why I trust you." Their eyes met. The world felt slower somehow. Then he stepped back from it. "I should go." Night shift. Pam blinked, pulled back to reality. "Right. Sure." He picked up the tray. "I'll get your payment," she offered. He waved it off. "You've already paid me." She raised a brow. "The 20 an hour?" I was joking. He placed the tray in the kitchen, then paused at the door. "My number is on the fridge. A call when you're home. I'll head out same time each day." But she wasn't really hearing him anymore. Her mind had drifted again, to Tyler. To what just happened. To what it meant. And then he was gone. Left alone with Bob, everything hit her at once. She let out a groan and dropped into the couch, face in her hands. Bob barked, wagging his tail like nothing had changed. She looked at him. "You like him, don't you?" He barked again. She pulled him into a hug, voice soft. "Yeah, me too." There was no point denying it anymore. She guessed she had fallen for him. Pam found herself in a memory. It was soft and strange, too clear to be real. She was 8 again, seated at the dining table between her parents. The scent of cake, the soft hum of laughter, the warmth, everything was vivid. Her mother's birthday. She watched as young Pam handed her a poorly drawn picture. It was meant to be her father, but it looked like a heart. Her mother had squinted at it, laughing lightly, while her father nodded enthusiastically. "That's me, all right." Older Pam smiled at the scene. She remembered how proud she felt, even though she knew her art was awful. Her mother had encouraged her regardless. That had been enough. Then came the gift exchange. Her father gave her mother a simple necklace. Her eyes lit up. She kissed his cheek, whispering something that made both Pam and her younger self giggle. It was one of those rare moments that made everything seem perfect. Pure. Gentle. Pam blinked and the scene faded. Now she was older, seated in a living room decorated for Christmas. She remembered this too. Jaden was there. So was Bobby, curled at her feet. Tree twinkled softly. She handed Jaden a gift, her heart hopeful. He accepted it without a smile. No thank you. No warmth. Just silence. Bobby barked playfully at him, and Jaden barely acknowledged the dog. Then came the food, sushi. Of all things. Pam hated fish, but she didn't say a word. 'Cause she loved him. Or thought she did. The memory jumped again. Cold. Sharp. The breakup. His words, so clear, sliced through her chest like glass. Pam jolted awake with a scream. Her breathing was uneven, heart racing. Took her a moment to remember she was in her apartment. Alone except for Bobby. She looked down at him, instantly comforted. Wrapping her arms around him, she whispered softly, "I'm okay. I'm okay." But her thoughts lingered on Jaden. Why Jaden? Why did he still show up in her dreams? Why had he even appeared in her dreams? She thought with anger. She shook her head and kissed Bobby's forehead. "Let's forget him, huh?" He looked up at her with understanding eyes, as if he knew everything. Her lips curved into a small smile. She remembered what Tyler had said about dogs. Loyal. Honest. Pure. It was true. They started playing again, tumbling on the couch until her phone buzzed. She groaned and reached for it, not expecting much. She didn't get messages often. But this one changed her mood instantly. Her smile vanished. The sender's name. The words. Her chest burned. She shouted in frustration, typed a quick reply with shaky fingers, blocked the number and tossed the phone aside. Jaden. It always had to be him. Needing to clear her head, she grabbed Bobby's leash. "Burgers, Bob." He wagged his tail in response. On her way out, she whispered a new pledge to herself. No more men. No more nonsense. She'd focus on herself and Bobby. But then she suddenly remembered a note on the fridge, Tyler's number. And with it was his spare keys in case of emergencies. She smiled, blushing before she could stop herself. Maybe her pledge didn't apply to Tyler. She picked up her phone again, fingers hovering. Maybe just one message wouldn't hurt. Bob watches her with a quiet, knowing expression. His face is drawn, but it says everything. He understands what she's feeling. Still, that doesn't make it any easier. She's been going back and forth, wrestling with her thoughts, pacing through conversations with herself and with Bob. But at last, she sends the message. Pause. A long exhale. Finally, she can breathe. Or so she thinks. 'Cause now comes the real weight. Her chest tightens as she stares at her phone, waiting for a reply that feels like it will decide everything. Her mind races too fast, too loud. Thoughts crash into each other like waves. What if he doesn't reply? What if he does? What if I just messed everything up? Her heart pounds. Suddenly, a voice echoes from downstairs. She hears someone speaking into a phone and immediately recognizes the voice. Tyler. She rushes to the balcony, heart leaping. There he is. Standing outside, phone still in hand, clearly in a hurry. He's heading toward his scooter. A scooter? She expected something more dramatic. A motorcycle, maybe. Just then, he ends the call. His eyes drop to his screen. He sees the message. She watches, half hopeful, half terrified. Then he turns slightly toward her balcony. Panic. She ducks down, too late. Click. He snaps a picture of her not-so-hidden self and sends it straight to her with a simple message. Good night. Her breath catches. Her chest flutters. Maybe, just maybe, he was thinking about her too. She turns to Bob, eyes wide and unsure, yet full of wonder. Maybe Tyler wasn't just a fleeting thought. Maybe he could be something more, someone who belonged in their story. Her gaze follows him dreamily as his scooter fades into the distance, leaving behind a spark of something she can't quite name. But she feels it. The next day at work, Pam was barely settling in when Ann called her over. "Can you help me with some copies?" she asked, voice laced with a strange tone, sweet but suspiciously so. Pam narrowed her eyes. That tone was never innocent. She sensed something brewing. As she approached the copy room, it happened. A hand shot out, dragged her inside, and there she was. And typical Ann. Without wasting a second, and pounced. "So? Bill, what happened after you got home yesterday?" Pam blinked. She'd completely forgotten to call Ann last night, and now she was about to pay the price. Questions came like rapid-fire bullets. Did he touch you? Did he say anything weird? Did you touch him? Wait, did you kiss him? Pam was dizzy. Thoughts could slap, she'd have bruises. And stopped suddenly and squinted at her. Pam's silence said too much. Hold on. That look on your face. Don't tell me, and gasped. Pamela, are you falling for him? Pam hesitated, heart pounding. She tried to explain about the misunderstanding, about how she was just trying to be nice. But Ann wasn't having any of it. I'm tired, Pam. And snapped. You always do this. You dive in with your whole heart before even checking the temperature. We've been friends long enough, I know what this is. You're falling for a guy you barely know. Again. Pam's smile faded. Ann's voice, sharp, almost pained, cut deeper than she expected. She wasn't wrong. But it still hurt. And kept going, her anger seeping into every word, her memories of her ex, Jaden, clearly surfacing. Pam's heart clenched. She crossed the room and wrapped her arms around Ann tightly. And gave a half-sarcastic snort. You know I'm right. Tension broke. They laughed. Quietly. Tiredly. But it was a laugh. And in that moment Pam realized, and was right. She barely knew Tyler. And yet she was already falling for him. But she couldn't admit that out loud. Not now. Not to Ann. As she finally turned to the copy machine and began her task, she threw out a hypothetical, trying to sound casual. So what if, just what if, I did fall in love with him and... Ann's deadly glare stopped her mid-sentence. Don't. Even. Pam swallowed. And sighed. You want my advice? Date. Then leave. Don't get attached. That's the only way a grown woman avoids crying on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m. Pam bit her lip. That wasn't her style. She couldn't date like Ann did, light, fast, and unbothered. Till an idea crept into her mind. What if you met him? Just once. Maybe you'd see what I mean. And arched a brow. A dangerous smirk followed. Pam's stomach dropped. That look. That evil little glint in Ann's eye. Oh no, Pam muttered. And was already plotting. Before Pam could escape and grabbed her arm. Just answer me one thing. How hot is he? Pam's cheeks turned pink. Scale of 1 to 10. And wasn't letting up. And even after Pam gave a hesitant reply, she still wasn't satisfied. She tapped her lip in thought. Then, suddenly, her face lit up. She grabbed Pam's hands, screamed, and declared, Operation! Go to the Hottie's bar and check him out is officially on. Pam blinked, caught between horror and laughter. First, she was excited. But then, she remembered Bob. Her smile faltered. I can't go, she murmured. I have Bob. I can't leave him alone. Ann's face softened. Her voice gentled. Then next time, okay? Pam nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. For all her reckless ways, and had a heart that understood. Later that evening, Pam returned home, her heels echoing on the stairs as she climbed. Her thoughts were noisy, too many things and had said echoing in her head. Where does he even work? Should I ask? Would that be weird? She paused. Maybe she'd just ask in case of an emergency. But then she remembered, Tyler had probably already left for his night job. She took a deep breath. No matter what was going on inside, she always tried to smile before entering. Bob always sensed when she was down, and she didn't want him worrying. She opened the door, already halfway through her usual greeting, and froze. There he was, Tyler, sleeping on her couch. Her breath caught in her throat. What was he doing here? Should she wake him? Should she leave him be? She gently closed the door behind her and stood there, unsure of her next move, heart racing like a drum. Her evening had just taken another unexpected turn. She shut the door behind her and made her way to the couch where Tyler lay asleep. Quietly, she reached out and tapped him once, then twice. No response. His breathing was steady, peaceful. She glanced over at Bob, who was very much awake, lounging lazily on Tyler's leg. "Bob, a little help," she whispered. The dog blinked. Then, with deliberate disinterest, he rested his head back down. Betrayed by a dog. She sighed and knelt beside Tyler, trying again to rouse him. Till nothing. Then, without fully realizing it, her mind wandered, gently, dangerously. Her gaze lingered on his face. His sharp features softened by sleep, the gentle rise and fall of his chest, the way he held Bob like he mattered. She lowered herself onto the floor, just in front of him. So close. The space between them seemed to hum. Her heart thudded in her chest. Why am I doing this? She wondered. Maybe it was the memories. Maybe it was the way he cared for Bob. Maybe she just missed what they used to be. She leaned in, breath catching. A kiss wasn't planned, but maybe, just maybe... Bark. Tequila's sharp voice shattered the stillness. Startled, Tyler's eyes flew open. For a second, their gazes locked. Frozen in time. He blinked, sat up quickly, then murmured, "Sorry," and turned away. No reaction. No expression. As if the moment hadn't meant a thing. He left without another word, telling her goodbye. Pam sat still for a while, dazed. Bob yawned, unimpressed. Later that night, in his own apartment, Tyler leaned against the wall, cheeks flushed red. He'd felt it too. Tequila hadn't barked. Maybe... They both fell asleep thinking of each other, hearts quietly restless as the night carried them into the next day. The house was quiet. Tyler stepped in, eyes scanning for Bob, but nothing. No wagging tail, no welcoming bark. He furrowed his brows and moved further inside, calling softly. A sharp creak behind him. He turned swiftly. "Where the hell is that dog?" Pam's voice pierced through the silence. She stormed in, flushed and breathless, a heel half off. "I'm late again. He made me run around for over an hour." Without pause, she pulled out her phone, already typing a message to Anne, her reliable work alibi. Tyler blinked, still seated, his gaze following her. "Wait, heels? You walked a dog in heels?" The argument started like a low simmer, petty comments, raised eyebrows and disbelief, and built fast. She didn't see the issue. He absolutely did. In their haze of back and forth, neither noticed the glance exchanged between Bob and Tequila. Then Bob darted forward, tail high, charging at Tequila with a goofy excitement. Pam still had his leash in hand. Her scream came too late. In a wild, comical twist of limbs and motion, Pam was pulled straight into Tyler's lap. He caught her instinctively, one hand on her waist, the other bracing her fall. Time stilled. They stared. Too close. Too quiet. Too long. Thoughts tangled in the air between them, awkward, messy, confusing. Finally, Tyler's voice cut through it. "So, work." Her cheeks turned crimson. She scrambled off him, muttered a jumbled thanks, and snatched up her bag. "Bye, Bob," she managed, fleeing before she could process the moment. The silence she left behind was deafening. Tyler sat there still. Then his eyes dropped to the furry culprit. "You," he muttered, kneeling before Bob. "Why do you listen to me, huh? Why not her?" Bob tilted his head. "Give me your paw," Tyler tried. Bob obliged. "Second paw." Bob hesitated. Tequila gave the slightest wink. Bob complied. Tyler narrowed his eyes. Pam opened the door, already mid-sentence. "Hey, Bob," a sneaker greeted her face. She stopped, blinking. Tyler stood in front of her, calm as ever, one brow raised. "You're always in heels," he said. "Thought you might like these." She stared, lips parting, then accepted them. "Thanks. We're going for a walk," he added, gesturing toward the leashes. "That's what you wanted, right?" Pam nodded, words stuck in her throat. They walked. Bob and Tequila led the way, tails swinging. The field stretched wide ahead, evening breeze brushing against them. She glanced at him, nervous, trying to form a question. "You're still with Bob?" she finally asked. "Don't you sleep for your night shifts?" He nodded. "Usually." He paused, thoughtful. Then, "I need to know what's going on with him." She stopped walking. "You care that much?" she asked softly. His eyes didn't waver. "Yeah, I do." She smiled quietly to herself, lost in thought, until Tyler's voice gently pulled her back to reality. With a small nod, he gave Bob the signal to run. The golden retriever bolted across the open field, tail wagging with joy. Tyler, watching silently, released Tequila after him. Pam's eyes widened. Tequila? She had always thought of the sleek Doberman as a composed, gentle soul. But the moment her paws hit the grass, chaos erupted. Tequila tore after Bob like a missile, barking with wild delight. Pam laughed in disbelief, lifting her phone to snap pictures of the two dogs darting across the field like streaks of light. Tyler leaned against a tree, cigarette in hand, eyes calm behind the thin trail of smoke. "Call him back," he said casually. She cupped her hands and called out, "Bub! Come on, boy!" Tyler blinked at her, utterly confused. "That's how you call a dog?" He walked over, his tone amused but patient, and crouched beside her. "Try this," he instructed, his voice low and firm. Pam blinked. The scent of his cologne brushed against her senses like a breeze, earthy, addictive. She almost forgot he was talking. She mimicked his technique. Bob responded instantly, racing back to her like she'd just offered him steak. She laughed in pure delight. Tyler smiled too, just a little. He was happy for her. And she? She was glowing. But not everyone was thrilled. Tequila. The Doberman crept up behind Pam, her movements quiet. In a flash, she smeared mud across Pam's clean sneakers. Pam shrieked, snapping out of her giddy trance. Tequila, unbothered, gave Tyler a wide-eyed innocent look, tongue hanging like a child who'd done no wrong. Tyler melted. He scooped her up in his arms with a chuckle, showering her with affection. Pam scowled. "Maybe focus on disciplining your dog," she muttered, brushing her shoe on the grass. Tyler only shrugged. When he suggested heading back, Pam shook her head. "I think I want to play a little longer with Bob." As she ran with Bob through the golden grass, Tyler paused mid-step and turned. His gaze lingered on her, his expression unreadable. His heart ached. He wanted to reach her. But something always held him back. On his chest, Tequila stared up at him, then shifted her gaze to the barely visible tattoo under the sleeve of his shirt. Her eyes dimmed with sadness. Tyler gave a bittersweet smile and whispered, mostly to himself, "Just the two of us, huh?" But even as the words left his mouth, something in his chest told him the story was about to change. Through a long day at work, Pam returned home with and by her side. As they stepped inside, Pam greeted Bob with a warm smile, and Anne, ever the cheerful guest, invited Bob to join them for dinner. He gladly accepted, his face lighting up at the offer. As Pam settled in and looked around with playful curiosity, clearly expecting to catch a glimpse of the so-called haughty Pam had mentioned before. Meanwhile, Pam giggled and played with Bob, oblivious to Anne's wandering eyes. Then, out of nowhere, Anne pulled a small gift from her bag and handed it to Pam. "For me?" Pam asked, brows raised in surprise. "There's no occasion," and just chuckled. You don't need a reason to give your best friend something. Touched, Pam began unwrapping it while still thanking her. But the moment her eyes landed on the contents, her expression shifted. Her smile faltered. She stared, eyebrows slowly knitting together in disbelief. What was this supposed to mean? And laughed at her reaction. If you don't like it, you can give it back. But Pam shook her head. A gift is a gift. You don't return those. Even so, her annoyance was clear. She dropped the box on the table and walked off, leaving and giggling as she chased after her. Elsewhere, Tyler took Tequila to a nearby salon to get her hair shaved. The little dog looked oddly comfortable, nestled calmly in the arms of the man holding her. Perhaps it was because it was a man, not a woman. Tequila could be quite picky. As Tyler chatted with the receptionist, something caught his eye. A photograph hanging on the wall behind the man. His gaze zeroed in on one woman in particular. His voice faded. A chill ran through him. His hand subconsciously moved to his chest, resting over the place where his tattoo was inked, almost like he could feel it burning. The receptionist followed Tyler's eyes to the photo and smiled knowingly. He understood. Something was clicking into place. Tyler cleared his throat and reached into his pocket to pay for the haircut. But his wallet was gone. Later that night, Pam and Ann were at a restaurant, laughing way too loud, snapping pictures of their food like it was a photo shoot. Other diners glanced over with raised brows, but the girls didn't care. Take mine next, Pam said, handing her phone to Ann. Just as Ann adjusted the angle to take the shot, the phone rang. She looked at the screen and smirked. Without a word, she answered it. Hello, she said sweetly. Pam's eyes widened. Wait, who is it? And gave her a sly look. Realization hit. Pam gasped, lunged forward and snatched the phone from her hand, shrieking. It was Tyler. Tyler stood outside Pam's house, checking his pockets for the third time. No wallet. With a sigh, he pulled out his phone and dialed Pam's number. It rang once. Then again. A voice picked up, not hers. Confused, he was about to end the call when Pam's familiar voice finally came through. Oh, hey. You're at my place already? She asked casually. Yeah. Thought I might have left my wallet here, Tyler said, already turning the key in the door. Just wanted to let you know I'm coming in. Pam gave a light hum of approval. Sure, go ahead. As the conversation continued, Pam sat on the edge of her couch, across from her, and stared, silent and watchful. Her gaze was sharp, almost calculating. Anne's expression slowly shifted into a dull, unimpressed frown, subtle but deliberate. Pam glanced at her but kept talking to Tyler. And leaned in, slowly reaching for the phone. Pam tensed and pulled back, gently but firmly holding the device away. Tension between them crackled. In the background, little Bob squealed excitedly at the sound of Tyler's voice on the line. Tyler, meanwhile, was already inside, scanning the room. His eyes landed under the sofa. There it was, his wallet. He chuckled softly and was about to leave when something else caught his eye on the table. A small box, wrapped neatly in soft paper. Didn't know you got Bob a gift, he said with curiosity, reaching for it. Cute packaging. Pam's eyes widened instantly. Wait, Tyler, don't open that. Too late. Paper fell away, revealing the item inside. Tyler went quiet. So did Pam. A beat of silence passed. Then another. Pam's face flushed with a mix of shock and embarrassment. Her grip on the phone tightened, then she abruptly hung up. She looked up, directly at Anne, her eyes burning with accusation. And only smiled, subtle, satisfied. Mission accomplished. She had gotten between them. Sighed, Tyler stepped into the fading daylight, confusion still clouding his face. He pulled out his phone again and called the hotel's front desk. Reception, the voice greeted warmly. Hey, Tyler replied, his voice lighter than he expected. A short laugh escaped him. You sound cheerful. Got your wallet back, huh? Yeah. That and more, Tyler said, though the smile on his face faded slightly. As the call ended, he leaned back against the wall, staring up at the sky. The receptionist had no idea. The real reason behind his odd laughter had nothing to do with the wallet at all. Saturday morning. Pam applies her usual face mask, a weekend ritual she never skips. As the mask begins to dry, her thoughts drift to him. Tyler. She peels the mask off slowly, staring at nothing, her mind replaying every little moment with him. She wants to see him badly. But of course, he doesn't train Bob on weekends. She sighs. Darn weekends. Till coffee helps. She sips it quietly while Bob circles around her, tail wagging. Moments later, she slips on her sneakers. Yes, sneakers this time. After what happened the last time, she'd promised herself. No more fancy shoes for dog walks. Locking the door, she asks Bob, "Where should we go today?" Before Bob can answer, someone else does. A familiar voice. Then a bark of excitement. She turns, Tyler. He smiles. Mind if we join you at the park? Pam's heart does a little somersault. She nods quickly, her mind screaming. The weekend suddenly doesn't seem so bad after all. Later, at the park, Tyler is off playing fetch with Bob, running, laughing, completely in his element. Pam sits on a bench beside Tequila, who, as usual, is grumpy and completely uninterested in the world. Pam's eyes follow Tyler and Bob, her face dreamy, soft. Eventually, she turns to Tequila. "Wanna play with me?" Tequila doesn't even respond. Just glares, then walks off to a quieter spot, clearly done with human interaction for the day. Pam calls after her, whining dramatically, but Tequila's already out of reach. Suddenly, Tyler appears again. Pam lights up instantly. He walks over, casually extends a hand. Is he asking for my hand? She wonders, her heart racing. Her fingers twitch, ready to accept, until she follows his gaze. Nope. He's not looking at her. He's looking at Bob. More specifically, the leash she's still holding. He was asking for that. Pam's face turns beet red. In a blur, she spins around and dashes off, mumbling something about finding it, leaving behind a baffled Tyler, his hand hanging midair. Pam and Tyler strolled through the park, the late afternoon sun casting a soft glow on everything. She'd finally found the leash, after rummaging around for what felt like forever, and now they walked side by side, lost in conversation. Tyler talked about work, his eyes lighting up as he described it. There was a genuine joy in his voice, a brightness in his smile that made Pam stare a little too long. His happiness was infectious. She listened quietly, her own job weighing like a stone in comparison. Just as she was about to open up, he cut in, still smiling. If you hate it that much, why not just quit? The question lingered in the air, until a bicycle came flying past, fast and too close. Pam gasped. Tyler's reflexes kicked in. He grabbed her by the waist, pulling her to safety with a sharp, protective motion. Hey! Watch it! He yelled at the cyclist, who kept pedaling, headphones blaring. They doubted he even heard. Pam took a shaky breath, grounding herself. Then she softly answered the question he'd asked before the chaos. It's complicated. Their conversation drifted back into rhythm, until they were stopped by a cheerful woman holding a sign. Couples game. Just $3 to enter. Prizes for the top 3. Pam opened her mouth to explain they weren't a couple, but Tyler beat her to it. I'm in, he said, already handing over the cash. She blinked. Wait, what? Her cheeks flushed. Her mind was already spinning. If we win first place, that means a trip together? But Tyler seemed focused on something else entirely. He played the game with a mischievous grin, and to her shock, he won. 3rd place. He was thrilled, practically bouncing on his feet as he held up the prize. A bottle of wine? Pam muttered. You passed up a luxury trip for that? He laughed at her reaction. It's not just any wine. It's aged and rare. You'll understand when you taste it. She clearly didn't. So he offered her an invitation. Come over for dinner. We'll open it together. Before she could answer, Bob barked from nearby, clearly voting yes. Tyler chuckled. Bob's in. That's 2 out of 3. Pam sighed but smiled. Fine. But I'm bringing dessert. They agreed, then went their separate ways. Later that evening, Tyler insisted on walking Pam to her door. They chatted on the stairs about Bob, about how she should handle his sudden possessiveness around strangers. They were mid-laugh when Bob growled sharply from the top landing. They stopped. A shadow stood by Pam's door. Tyler narrowed his eyes. Pam froze. Jaden. He glanced between her and Tyler. Just like that, the warmth of the evening turned cold. Pam's heart sank. Of course. Just when things were finally going well, the idiot had to show up. It really was him. Jaden, standing at the door like a ghost from her past, his eyes fixed on Pam and Tyler. Pam's stomach turned. Disgust rose in her chest like bile. Jaden caught the look and smirked. Classic. Guess to him, she was still the pretty little thing he'd carelessly discarded months ago. His gaze shifted to Tyler. And then came the demand. Who's he? Pam blinked. Was he serious? The air thickened with tension. A sharp exchange was about to erupt, until Tyler stepped forward, calm and composed, and introduced himself. Silence. Jaden's mouth clamped shut. So did Pam's. But not for long. As Jaden spat something crude in Tyler's direction, Pam was ready to fire back, until he grabbed her by the wrist and pulled her into the house, slamming the door shut behind them. Inside it was chaos. Pam was furious, her voice cutting through the room like a whip. Jaden shouted back. Loud. Unapologetic. In the corner, Bob groaned. Even the dog was tired of this mess. Then, Jaden made his move. He reached down and picked Bob up, yanking the dog toward the door. Pam panicked. She pulled at his arm, fighting to hold her ground. Jaden believed Bob had been the real reason for their breakup. His logic? Twisted. His temper? Uncontrolled. The door flew open as he dragged Bob out, the dog squirming but unable to break free. And then, a voice broke through the madness. Tyler. Outside. On the phone. Cool. Collected. Loud enough for Jaden to hear. Yes, I'd like to report a dog napping. It's happening right now at my neighbor's place. Jaden froze. The blood drained from his face. He dropped Bob without a word and stumbled back, muttering insults at Pam as he retreated down the stairs. Pam stood there, stunned, watching the man vanish like the storm he brought. To her, he was insane. And thankfully, out of her house. Tyler crouched beside Bob, his voice soft. You okay, buddy? Bob looked up with sad, droopy eyes. Tyler gently patted his head again, whispering reassurance. It's okay now. He's gone. Pam stayed frozen by the door, her back turned. You really called the cops? She asked, her voice barely holding together. Tyler gave a faint shrug. No, I didn't. Pam let out a hollow laugh. Then the tears came. She crumbled to the floor, hugging Bob tightly. Her sobs echoed through the quiet room. Bob, sensing her pain, whimpered and nestled closer. Tyler's jaw tightened. Watching her break like that stirred something deep in him, helpless anger. He hated seeing her cry, hated that he couldn't fix it. He reached out slowly, unsure, hesitant. Bob saw the movement and shifted at first, thinking the gesture was meant for him, but paused. No, this wasn't his moment. It was theirs. Tyler reached out gently, his fingers hovering just inches from her arm, then paused. He pulled back. You should rest, he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. After everything today, you need it. Pam's expression shifted. Rest? That's the last thing on her mind. No. She wasn't going to sink back into the weight of earlier events. She was going to feel something different, something brighter. Happiness. Freedom. Tyler noticed. The sudden spark in her mood was unexpected, but it made him smile. He admired that about her, her quiet resilience. And he couldn't lie to himself, he was looking forward to the night they would share. He wasn't alone in that. So was Pam. At exactly 7 p.m., the soft simmer of food filled the air. Tyler was nearly done preparing dinner when a knock echoed through the apartment. He already knew who it was. Rushing to the door, he opened it, then froze. Pam stood there, glowing. Elegant. Composed. There was something different about her tonight. Come in, he said with a breathless smile. As he returned to the stove, she stepped inside and followed the vanilla trail drifting through the apartment. That familiar scent, it had always lingered around him. Now she knew the source, and it made her cheeks flush. Tequila gave her the usual cold shoulder. Typical. Still undeterred, Pam wandered into the kitchen and offered to help. Tyler nodded and silently handed her an apron. As he tied it around her waist, her breath hitched just a little. Not that he noticed, or maybe he did. Soft music played in the background, its mellow rhythm threading through the quiet tension between them. Tyler, used to the tune, hummed along in his mind as he sliced into the steak. Then, a particular line from the song made him glance up at Pam. Just a glance. But he didn't stop staring. Something about her in that moment felt still. Pull. She turned around suddenly. Their eyes met. Too late to look away. The sharp breath that escaped him was cut short, literally. The knife slipped. Blood welled up from his palm. Tyler! Pam gasped, hurrying to her bag. In the living room, Bob and Tequila dozed peacefully, lulled by the soft hum of the music. They remained unaware of the tension now blooming in the kitchen. Pam returned quickly, clutching a small bandage. Tyler tried to wave her off, but she didn't budge. "Let me," she said, her voice quiet but firm. And so he let her. She gently took his hand, wrapping the bandage around the wound with care. Neither of them spoke, but in that silence, something passed between them. Closeness. A beginning. She wraps the bandage gently around his wound, her fingers careful, deliberate. Tyler watches her, really watches her. There's something about her tonight, something he's never truly noticed before, or maybe he just never let himself see it. The soft music playing in the background only intensifies the moment, at least for Tyler. Pam stays focused, eyes on the bandage, but Tyler's gaze doesn't waver. Suddenly she coughs, soft, almost unsure. She felt it. His eyes on her. Was it her imagination? She looks up and asks him. Tyler doesn't deny it. Doesn't even try. The room falls quiet except for the music, now slower, deeper, more romantic. Now it's just the two of them, and the moment is theirs alone. Different thoughts ran wild through her mind as she gently wrapped the bandage around his hand. She could feel his gaze, steady, intense, watching her every move. It was unnerving, yet oddly comforting. Summoning a bit of courage, she broke the silence. "Were you watching me?" He hesitated just a second too long. Then came his response. "Yeah." She blinked, startled. That wasn't what she expected, not from him. And clearly, he hadn't meant to say it either. He cleared his throat quickly, reaching for an excuse. You, had something stuck in your teeth," he added, eyes darting away. "I didn't know how to tell you." Really, Tyler? Of all things he could have said. But Pam, in her sweet naivety, blushed hard. She didn't question it. She was too flustered to. She tied off the bandage neatly, her fingers trembling ever so slightly. "You should probably rinse off. Bathroom's down the hall," he said casually. She looked at him, unsure if he was teasing. But just in case, she went. And there it was. Something was actually in her teeth. She let out a breathy laugh, embarrassed, and quickly cleaned up. When she returned, the dining table had already been set. Tyler pulled out a chair for her and poured a glass of wine, the same one he'd won at the park. She recognized it instantly. Her smile gave her away, and he noticed. Dinner passed in a warm, comfortable rhythm. He even complimented the steak, saying it was better than what she usually had at the cafe. That meant a lot coming from him. After clearing the plates, she offered a game of truths, but he countered with a suggestion of his own, a guessing game. Curious, she agreed. All right, what are the rules? Simple. They'd take turns guessing something personal about each other. If they got it wrong, they'd drink a glass of the cocktail he had just mixed. The drink looked amazing, vibrant, smooth, almost glowing in the light. Pam got so excited she began snapping pictures with her phone. Tyler just watched her, bewildered. Why are women like this? He thought with a smirk. The game began. Tyler went first, guessing something about her. It was spot on. She gasped, impressed, and slightly embarrassed. He watched with amusement as she took her drink. Then it was her turn. She hesitated but saw the opportunity to learn more about him. Carefully, she made her guess and missed. Badly. But to her surprise, she wasn't disappointed. In fact, she was relieved. Now she knew he was very much single. And something about that made her smile. The game was getting more interesting by the second. Pam, now fully relaxed in Tyler's apartment, maybe a little too relaxed, settled deeper into the soft couch, her body language open, her guard completely down. The guessing game continued. Tyler tilted his head with a smirk, eyes twinkling with mischief. So, 30? Pam's jaw dropped. 30, she scoffed. Excuse you, I'm 29. He chuckled. Close enough. She narrowed her eyes at him, but there was no real heat behind it. Since we're guessing, how old are you, huh? She asked, leaning in before the moment slipped away. Time was ticking, and she wanted to squeeze out as much as she could before leaving. 26, he replied casually. Her eyes widened. Seriously? You're younger? That surprised her more than she expected. But age was just a number, right? Her gaze drifted to his tattoos, tracing the ink along his skin with curious eyes. She made a bold guess about the one on his neck, and nailed it. Tyler smiled and explained its meaning, and Pam squealed with delight, almost childlike. I've always wanted a tattoo, she confessed, but I don't know where to put one. I don't want to look like that guy I saw across the street 2 months ago. He looked crusty. Tyler's hand suddenly rested lightly on her ankle, sending a jolt up her spine. Here, he said smoothly. It'd look perfect right here. He tapped a spot just above her ankle, his fingers lingering for half a second longer than they should have. Silence stretched between them, tense, electric. Their eyes locked, neither willing to look away. Tyler was the first to break, glancing down and leaning forward, trying to collect himself. If he stared any longer, he wasn't sure what he might do. Pam caught the tension. A sly smirk curved her lips. Maybe we should stop the game, she teased. Tyler shook his head, voice low, teasing. Not yet. He wasn't done playing. His next guess about her wasn't just playful, it was personal. Direct. She felt the heat crawl up her skin instantly. Jealousy? Maybe. But she wasn't about to let that show. Without hesitation, she downed the rest of her cocktail in one gulp. Tyler raised a brow but said nothing. Game on. Pam leaned in, inch by inch, lips close to his ear. Your turn, she whispered. But I'm guessing you wouldn't stop me if I kissed you. Tyler didn't flinch. Instead, he lifted his glass and finished his own drink in silence. Pam stared. Was that a no? Allie. It had to be. Disappointment flickered in her eyes, but retreat wasn't in her nature. Not tonight. Not with the way he was looking at her. His gaze was like gravity, pulling her in. Without a word, she leaned in closer, lips trembling, heart pounding. An unwelcome interruption slithered in. Of course it was her. Tequila. She lunged, almost sinking her teeth into Pam. But Tyler, swift and composed, stopped her just in time. His arms gently wrapped around Tequila, soothing her like one might calm a storm. Pam, still shaken, stepped back. You should lock her up, she said firmly. Tyler's expression darkened. She's not some monster. She's just different. Like the rest of us. Pam didn't agree. She could have been seriously hurt. Her voice rose, hurt, angry, humiliated. She turned and stormed out of his apartment, Bob trotting behind her, clearly torn. He looked back at Tyler, reluctant. But he followed her anyway. At the door, next time, she snapped. Don't be here when I get home. Back in her room, Pam collapsed onto the bed. Tears streamed freely. Bob sat beside her, ears low, eyes soft. She felt humiliated. Embarrassed. Stupid for caring. 2 weeks later, Pam's getting ready for work. She hasn't seen Tyler since that night, and she wants to keep it that way. She pats Bob's head, offers a small smile, and walks out the door. At work, she's distracted. Her smiles don't quite reach her eyes, but she tries. And notices. She always does. You're not at fault, Pam, and says, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. Pam sighs. She's done with heartbreak. Maybe it's time to stop overthinking and just date for fun. Like Anne. Josh overhears and jumps in. "Wanna grab dinner tonight?" Josh, the second biggest flirt in the office right after Michael. Till Pam agrees. Why not? But Bob, she can't leave without him. So she signs herself out early. As Anne chats with Josh, Pam's mind drifts again to Tyler. She misses him. Later that evening, Pam returns home completely drained. Part of her hoped, just maybe, he'd be there. But she isn't ready. She pushes the door open. Bob greets her with a wagging tail. No Tyler. Just Bob. She smiles at Bob as she goes closer to him. She kneels and hugs him tightly. But as she does, she inhales his fur. And her heart skips. He smells like Tyler. He always does. After a long, hot shower, she wraps herself in a towel and makes her way to the living room, where Bob is lounging on the rug, tail wagging lazily. Side, the rain has turned violent, hammering against the windows like an angry symphony. She settles into the couch, brushing her damp hair back, still chatting idly with Bob when her phone rings. A soft smile crosses her face. It's her mom. "Hi, Mom," she answers cheerfully. They begin talking light, sweet things at first. But soon her mother's tone shifts. "Is everything okay, baby?" "You sound off," her mom says gently. She tries to laugh it off. "I'm fine. Just tired." But her mother knows better. And then her father's voice appears faintly in the background before he suddenly sits up, peering over her mother's shoulder to catch a glimpse of his daughter's face on the screen. "Is that sadness I see?" he asks, brow furrowed. "No, Dad," she lies with a practiced smile. "I'm not heartbroken. I'm okay." "Really?" They don't push. Her mother simply nods, her eyes soft. "Come visit us soon, all right?" "I will," she promises, waving them goodbye before the screen fades to black. She sets the phone down slowly, then whispers to herself, "I wish I had what they have just once." But maybe love like that isn't meant for everyone. She turns to Bob, voice quieter now. "Come on. We're heading out." The rain is relentless, but she doesn't care. Bob trots ahead beside her, but suddenly he breaks into a run, barking sharply. "Bob," she calls, hurrying after him. He stops in front of a wall plastered with flyers, one in particular catching her eye. A missing poster. Tequila. Pam stands frozen, her breath catching in her throat. The rain blurs her vision, but it isn't the rain that makes her heart ache. Tyler. If you're dying to know what happens next, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment if you want to see part 2. Don't forget to turn on post notifications so you never miss new uploads from us. Until next time.